joining us now, Congressman Dan Bishop from House Homeland Security and former Deputy National Security Advisor Katie McFarland. First to you, Congressman, where is this headed? The White House is letting Baltic NATO members Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia send weapons to Ukraine. Where is this headed?
It's pretty frightening, Liz. Joe Biden shows once again that he has perfect pitch for foreign policy. He's perfectly wrong in every judgment made, and as Robert McFarland said, he had been for 45 years, and as a consequence, he creates grave danger. If we thought that Afghanistan was the worst catastrophe, we only had to wait a few months till he effectively invites Putin to invade. It's just almost unbelievable that any person could stand at the podium in the White House and deliver such a line. So, you know, we're in bad shape. And the contrast between now and 2016 to 2020 just shows that we can have a president who doesn't start wars and also deters them at the same time. That's what we need today.
We hear you, Congressman. Congressman, forgive us. It was Robert Gates who said that, right? Robert Gates said that of Biden, right?
Exactly right. Certainly, Liz. That's right.
So, you know, no, that's fine. KT, you've been on with us. You and I, we've covered how severely the Afghan exit was botched. It's, you know, the president said Al-Qaeda's not there. He said it's not going to be Saigon. The White House said we didn't know it was going to collapse as quickly as it did. We have new information that, yeah, that they did know ahead of time. Could it be botched?
This, absolutely. It's already been botched. I think it's, you know, look, when President Biden said a minor incursion is just fine, and then tried to clean it up by saying, well, I mean, an invasion wouldn't be right, but an invasion is when tanks move across borders. Putin has perfected something called hybrid warfare, and that's like just below the threshold of an actual invasion. It's things like false flag operations, cyber attacks, hacking into government computers, and hacking into pipelines. Putin has already started doing that, and it gets him to the same place. What does he want out of this? He wants a destabilized Ukraine, and he wants a Ukraine that's not going to join NATO. I think he's already achieved those things. The Germans have said they're not going to help. The Americans have said they're not going to help. And I think Putin, within the next couple of weeks, is going to make some kind of a move against Ukraine. Probably not an out-and-out invasion, but he may try to snag off a couple of the eastern provinces, or he might try to have a land corridor to Crimea. But he's going to do exactly what he did in 2014 when he grabbed Crimea quickly, and the Biden administration, the Obama-Biden administration, did nothing about it. It was a fait accompli before they'd even figured out what had happened.
This could happen, given what KT is saying, this could happen pretty rapidly, Congressman. And Congressman, there's also this. The rhetoric now coming out of the White House, the Press Secretary Jen Psaki, she was asked how many Americans are in Ukraine, how many are there. She said, quote, we don't put a chip in Americans when they travel. Your reaction to that?
Well, I heard today from some constituents that there are Americans present in Ukraine. I'm worried about who's in harm's way. KT points out that the last time we were in this situation was the last Obama-Biden administration, and here we are again. It's not at all a good situation, and it's quite ironic that we spent a year and all sorts of fascination impeaching President Trump over a telephone call, but now the real grave danger to Ukraine has been created by this president, this administration, in its latest catastrophe.
Yeah, we hear you, Congressman, and KT, to the Congressman's point, the Secretary of State Blinken, he's been in damage control since President Biden appeared to greenlight a, quote, minor incursion by Russia. The White House press secretary said President Biden hasn't spoken to the president of Ukraine. We don't have an ambassador there either. You know, KT, let's sit back in Congress. Let's watch what Biden said this week. His attacks on reporters, the minor incursion, refusing today to take questions on Russia. Watch this.
So I think what you're going to see is that Russia will be held accountable if it invades. And it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, et cetera.
Why are you waiting on Putin to make the first move, sir?
God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. And by the way, the reason we're not going to have any time for questions now is these guys got to get quickly on a plane and go out and do a major announcement in Ohio, and you guys will ask me all about Russia and not about anything having to do with chips.
Okay, that's a reporter's job, is to do oversight. You know, here's the question, KT. Is this a U.S. or Europe conflict? The U.S. is not up for another botched war like the one in Afghanistan or Iraq.
Right. Totally. And it's a disconnect between what the Europeans want and what the United States wants. I mean, I was in the Oval Office when President Trump had his first phone call with the German chancellor, and she said immediately, what are you going to do about Ukraine? And President Trump said to her, what are you going to do about Ukraine? Ukraine's on your border. The Germans aren't prepared to do anything because they don't want to jeopardize their energy, which they get from Russia. They don't want to have higher prices. They're already in the middle. Germany is in the middle of a huge energy crisis right now. Home heating oil has doubled in price. You know, if President Biden was really serious about this conflict, he would not go to war over it. What he would do is go to peace over it. He would say, we're going to bring out American energy one more time. We'll be energy independent. We'll be a major energy exporter as we were just a year ago. And then we would work with the Europeans to export our natural gas and our oil to Europe so they wouldn't have to be dependent upon Russian energy.
That's a great point. That's a great point. You know, you're right. This is hitting the oil and gas markets, showing once again the U.S. can't be dependent on foreign oil, to KT's point, Congressman. The Washington Post reports if Biden sanctions Russia, Russia could turn around and shut off Europe's fuel supplies. Let's listen to former President Trump on this. Watch this.
You know, it's very interesting because the president of Ukraine last night, he was seen in some very unusual pictures. He couldn't believe what he heard. He couldn't believe what he heard. And I couldn't believe whether you're for strong stoppage or not, you're really telling him you might as well go in. And you also can't just talk in terms of sanctions, because sanctions don't mean too much to Russia. If you want to stop somebody, you're not going to be talking just about sanctions.
We understand Trump and his family business is facing multiple probes. There's also the Capitol riots issue as well for the former president. But to the former president's point, Congressman, he's basically saying that Russia doesn't care about sanctions, doesn't mean much to them. KT, I think, would agree with that. What do you say, Congressman?
Yeah.
I think that makes all the sense in the world. What President Trump always brought to bear was a creativity to foreign affairs, and he was not clumsy. He was very skilled at keeping people off balance. Biden is wedded to old thinking, and he just blunders constantly. So she's right. Going back to the old sanctions well won't do it.